Okay, what's happening, people? Jono here from Fitness Education Online. Welcome to our channel if it's your first time on here. And it's actually a specific series. If you've landed on this video here, I've got a specific series which is all about social media marketing tips for fitness professionals. What I've done is I've gone and sought out the 10 best social media marketing professionals, specifically for fitness professionals in the world, and they're going to give you their top 3 tips in less than 10 minutes. Now, I'm going to shoot over and give them a bit of an introduction in a second. Just before I do that, let me tell you that we've also got another series, which is business tips in general. So this one here is all social media marketing. We've got another one, which is business based. Now, I've interviewed the same people on both of them because they're very closely related, obviously. So it's the same introduction for both. So if you get to the introduction and you're like, well, hold on, haven't I heard this exact same introduction before? Yes, it has. I've just used the same introduction. You could call it, I don't know whether it's lazy on my behalf or it's just smart or time efficient on my behalf. I like to call it smart and time efficient. You can call it what you want. But anyway, let me introduce this week's guest. What's happening, people? Jono here from Fitness Education Online. Super excited for this week's episode on how to get more clients for your personal training business. We've got a good friend on the line this week here, and he actually lives literally down the road from me. He owns 2 fitness studios, and both of them are literally like a 5-minute drive from my place here. So not only is he good at what he does, but he lives close to me. So if his video sucks, I can actually, tell him face to face. So yeah, you're in for a good one. Just before we get into it, usual deal, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe and join our community Facebook group. We've got the largest Facebook group in the world for fitness professionals. Everyone's super supportive. We all share tips and ideas. We've got a strong no dickheads policy. So if anyone's a dickhead in there and they, abuse you or bully you or whatever, we kick them out. And I've got rid of like 99% of them. So it's a really supportive environment. So feel free to join, link down in the description. Anyway, let's hear it from Dave.
My first social media tip is honestly just to talk like a human on social media and to acknowledge and understand the platforms we're at. And I just want to bang my head against a wall when I see people not acknowledging what social media is. It's like I'm going to steal this from Russell Brunson, if you know who this guy is. He runs ClickFunnels, but he talks about social media being like different parties. And we're going to these parties, all these people at a party. And so if you're on Facebook and you feed, you're at the Facebook party. And then if you go to someone's Facebook group, you're at a party, but it's hosted by the guy who runs the group. If you're on someone's Instagram profile, you're like in their house. And when we look at like social media, like parties, like congregations of people, we realize if you want to be the cool person at a party who has some influence, you need to kind of like acknowledge that you've got to be a human and talk to people like that to be the fun person at the party. If I was running a party in my house and you came in, you were just like telling everyone here about your supplements you sell, and you're like, oh, hey guys, I've been selling this protein for like 3 weeks. You didn't want to come buy it. 1, no one would buy it. 2, I'd kick you out of the fucking house. And that is exactly how social media kind of works. And again, we need to realize we're talking to humans here. Why are people on social media? Most of the time, they're just fucking wasting time, to be honest. Very few people intentionally, except for like very savvy business people who know what they're doing on there. Very few people are like, well, scheduled my 10 minutes of Facebook time to look for important, relevant information. They're bored. They sit on the toilet. They're on the train. They've come home after a long day and they can't be fucked talking to their spouse. So they're just scrolling through Instagram or Facebook. They're there for entertainment and they're there just mindlessly. And again, we want to acknowledge that when we talk to people and we post stuff. So like, be entertaining, be interesting, be a person, acknowledge that we're humans talking to humans. We are not robots. And again, I see advertisements of people posting and I'm like, who have you written this for? This is not written for a human to read. This is like some kind of like business journal it should be, and it's not human. So like, firstly, just realize that. And like, if you're trying to do little stories or something on your social media, again, how do you make it funny? How do you be different? Again, people aren't going through stories looking for like information. They're there to be entertained. And if you provide information within the entertainment, they'll actually be receptive to it. But first, you've got to meet them where they're at, which is they're not on Instagram to try solve their weight loss problem per se. They're on Instagram because it's fun and they see people and they connect with people. And then they happen to see you having a fun life. And then you're like, oh, hey, I just finished up with my client, Susan, and we had a really good conversation about nutrition. I thought I'd share one key takeaway I took from it. And then you see how that's very human? Like, hey, you're here. I just talked with someone. You mind if I share it? Oh, okay. It's not like, here's the one tip you must do to lose weight. Because would you ever walk into a party and fucking just yell it? And so you understand that the human nature of the platform, and that makes people receptive to actually listening to you because you haven't sort of instantly broken the rapport of the platform and things like that. If you're on social media and you see any ads, specifically like sponsored posts that have like 2,000 comments and like all these likes and I almost guarantee you it's an interesting advertisement that's entertaining, that tells a story, that's kind of funny. You do not see many things that are like, you should buy my course for $500 blowing up, because people either click and look or they bugger off. Social media is this party. They want everyone at this party talking. And so when you create stuff that is engaging, interesting, and people like seeing, the party rewards you. Like if you come to my house and you're making more people connect and have fun and dance, I want to be like, come to my party, man. Like, you're good. I want you here. So the platforms reward you for building these kind of parties, having fun with it, and being a human. So acknowledge you're talking to people. People want to feel understood, and you won't, weird people out, and you won't just have stuff that goes, falls by the wayside because you're trying to sell shit and things like that. So act like a human. You'll do just fine. Point number 2 on social media. Let's say you're trying to use your social media to very specifically get clients. Almost everything you post, you want to be entering the conversation in the head of the person you're trying to talk to. You really want to try to put stuff out there that's very relevant to them. Now, the way I see this going wrong is, especially in fitness, we are fitness people, and we love training and we love nutrition, and we think everybody else loves it as much as us. So we typically post stuff and talk about stuff and write stuff that we find interesting, or that other personal trainers would find interesting. And unless you're working with athletes or bodybuilders or fitness people as well, most of it's going to go straight over the head of general population people. Okay, if you're most trainers or most boot camps, you're working with general population people. The conversations in their head are very different to the conversations we have in fitness, or we like to read about in fitness. And that disconnect is often, I think, the reason people don't feel understood and connected to by trainers. Because when you're talking about your latest shift in your macronutrients, most people are like, I don't understand 3 of the words in that sentence, right? So you need to, you can talk, here's the thing, you can talk about all that stuff and all the nitty gritty, but how do you bring it back to the conversation in people's head? That's my key. So when you've got this idea or something you want to talk about, something you're doing, stories are great, what's going on in their head? What's going on in their head? And so let's say, all right, let's just use an example. Let's say you want to talk about your new macronutrient split, or how you're adjusting your diet because you're 6 weeks in and you're loving it. Bring it back to like where people are at with their dieting, and maybe share the story of how you got there. Hey, have you ever found nutrition super complicated, overwhelming? I know I used to 5 years ago when I wanted to lose weight, or I wanted to do my first show. And I thought, what food should I eat, I just couldn't understand it. And I started learning more about what's called macros. Now, this may sound really complicated to you, but that's all right. But I'll show you really quickly how simple this can be to help you understand what you're doing with your diet and how it can work for you. So you've just met them where they're at. Hey, you're struggling with this problem. Most people are just pain or problem aware in their life. They are not solution aware. They don't know that they should be controlling their calories. They often don't know what their problem is. They don't even know that their problem is that they're unorganized. They get to bed too late, so they wake up late, so they don't prep lunch, so they eat shit all day, and that's why they feel shit. And then they don't even know that that's their problem. All they know is their pain. What's their pain? They look in the mirror and they're like, oh fuck, I don't look good in this. They go to the beach and they're like, I don't want to take stuff off. They go to try on that shirt. They go to the shops and they want to buy that nice shirt off the mannequin rack, and they're like, oh, it looks really good on the mannequin. Doesn't look good on them. That's their pain. Or they see their friend post a photo who looks good and they're like, oh, I wish I looked like that. Or they see their friend with a hot girlfriend and they're like, I wish I had a hot girl. Like, people know their pain. Meet them where they're at. Meet them where they're at with their pain. You can talk about problems, but like, acknowledge where they're like, how they're feeling. And then once they're kind of hooked into that, show them how what you teach is the bridge that helps them with that, and that this is going to help address that pain. And then you can start talking about the fitnessy stuff we love talking about, or how this all works. But you've got to meet them where they're at. You've got to find this common ground to start with. I might get this totally wrong, but there used to be, I think it was like in ancient Rome or Greece, when people used to come together, like to talk, they actually used to call like a place they all talked at. They used to call it the common ground, or they had a name for this thing everyone came to, and they all came to talk about the same stuff. And it's a simple metaphor for like, you've got to start where people are at. And the way to start learning what's going on in people's head is have more conversations, ask more questions. Stop thinking you know what people have, and freaking ask what's going on in their head. And the more people you train, the more you'll get this. But when you're training people, when you're doing a sales conversation, ask the question, What are you struggling with? What do you find most complicated? You know, what's most frustrating about this? What have you tried? You've just got to ask and listen, and you'll start to see these patterns. When you enter that conversation, everything you do after that is 10 times more potent. So then when you share your 7 nutrition tips, or you've got a giveaway or something that you're doing because you're like, all right, I'll do a little ebook and I'll give it away. When you sort of started from where they're at, oh, this person gets me. Great. If when people feel, actually, I think one of my favorite expressions in all like sales and influence is like, people don't buy when they understand, they buy when they feel understood. And when you enter that conversation, it's your goal is that they feel understood. When they're scrolling their social media and they're when someone stops them and says, hey, was the last time you went shopping kind of traumatic? You want to try that dress on that looked really good and, you know, didn't fit? Like when someone actually like, oh my God, I had a client just the other day who came back to join my gym after a bit of time off. And she said she was walking through the shops and she looked at like a really long mirror, like it was a big mirror at the shops. And she said to herself, oh God, look at that fatty. And she's like, oh shit, that's me. Literally, she said that to me. Third tip for social media is make sure you are giving before you are asking. Give before you ask. If we come back to human psychology, we like to, like, we don't want to keep feeling like we're doing something for other people, but when they feel like they've done stuff for us, we're more receptive. And this is the classic law of reciprocity. You've probably heard that term before. Most of us has. When someone's done something for us, we feel this desire to want to do more for them. So that's a simple way to look at it. But again, where people go wrong with this on social media, I think is they're asking, they're like, hey, you know, do you want to join my program? Hey, do you want this? Hey, come do this thing for me, instead of just going, how can I deposit some goodwill first before I'm asking for something? And Gary Vaynerchuk made this very famous with his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. It's the same concept, and it's because it works. Like, it was such a powerful concept, Gary V wrote a whole book about it, right? It's the truth. And you really need to examine, what are you doing on these platforms, on any social media, that is giving value. Here's where I think people get value confused though, is value comes in many forms, many forms. People sort of give value and they're like, I'll tell them about like the breakdown of the molecules of carbohydrates because like that's something they can learn from. Value is specific to the person and where they're at. And it's very important to realize that value does not just mean a mind like just bursting out of content and going, I talked about something, so now I can ask for the next thing. I honestly think some of the most valuable things on social media especially is entertainment and stories. Because yeah, like a lot of people, that's why we're on social media. We're not there to learn, we're not there to improve our life per se. And so value can be share funny things in your life. Actually go out of your way to do things that are interesting, or create like a video or a story or something on the platform that is entertaining, because that is valuable, right? Like they're on there to be entertained. So you do these funny things and they're like, oh, they really like that. They laugh at it. Or you tell a story that's interesting and you've put yourself out there, and like that is value per se. And some of the people I follow on social media, even though I love their business, I love what they're doing, I follow them as like, there's lots of people out there all saying the same shit. They're like, if I'm following someone for business advice, they're possibly all saying the same shit. Fitness people, we're all saying the same thing. So it's like, you provide value by being different and being interesting and funny. And that's why people connect with you. And then when you do the next thing, they're so receptive. So don't confuse value for this like content and information. That can be valuable, 100%. And some people do that, but it's got to be what people actually want. And it's got to be done in a way they can actually take in. Because if you write like the smartest article of all time, the smartest post of all time, and it's very hard to read, people aren't going to take it in. But if you make it easy to digest, it's now more valuable because it's made them do less work. Like good writing is really just about helping people get to the next sentence easier. That's actually like how you make people like, oh, that's why I stuck around with this. And so really, you have to be intentional about this stuff, I guess, is the real big point here. You can't just wing it and hope that I'll just like post each day and good things will happen. Find out what people want, like really listen to where people are at so you can provide things that are valuable. Learn, like follow other people who you like and you see what they're doing, and you can get ideas about how to be entertaining or tell stories, and it gives you more permission to ask. And when it comes to like just standing out in general for this stuff on social media, because I think it's very important to stand out in general. Like I sort of alluded to, a lot of people say the same shit. Like there's only so much fitness information out there. There's only so much business information out there, right? It's a lot of the same stuff. So how do you separate? this is a guy I follow, and he broke it down in the most beautiful way I've ever heard. He said, say what only you can say in a way only you can say it. I'll say that again. Say only what you can say in a way that only you can say it. What that means, say what only you can say, means tell personal stories and examples, because only you can say that. If you've had a specific experience in your life and a story, only you can tell that story. So by definition, it's different to other people, okay? So say only what you can say in a way that only you can say it. Learn to actually talk in your own voice, your own way of saying things, because that's how only you can say it. So even if someone else does have a similar experience, refine the way you're talking about it. And I know this may seem different to value, but my point is, like, people like actually understanding people. It is valuable when you get to know someone through these platforms and you really understand what they're like. You have to stand out first to do that. So don't be afraid to tell your own personal stories, because people find value in that. They see themselves in you. Even though they're reading your story, going, how does that relate to me? And that provides value to them, because then they get a new perspective. You give them different awareness of their own life through your story.
All right, you can tell that guy's a switched on individual, right? Anyways, if you want to follow Dave, which I recommend you do, Dave, where do we go to hear more about you?
Yeah, if you want to hear more about me, just follow me and join us on social media, where I share a lot about what I'm doing in my own businesses. So you can just find David Mifsud on social media. I think my Instagram's like Dave Mifsud, because it was my high school jersey name, and it's hilarious. And I am in fact a stud. And I share about what I'm doing. So I got 2 gyms as of recording this, and I share a little bit about what's going on in those gyms. So I think one of the best ways to learn is to see other people doing things. So come and follow me, and you can see what I'm up to and watch it live in action. If you want to follow my gyms, there's the Body Shapers and there's Day One Training. They are the 2 studios that I own. And again, you can see what we're doing, and you can stalk us and look at our marketing and our processes and all that stuff. So yeah, come follow me on social media, and you can learn from it happening in action.
So that's it for today's episode. I would love to invite you into the Fitness Education Online Community Facebook group if you're not in there already. It's a free Facebook group. There's thousands of trainers in there. We all share tips and ideas. Everyone's super supportive. And that's really what we do at Fitness Education Online. So I'll see you in there.